Hi, everybody. This is Dan Cerrucci, and I'm here with Jesse Kurtz. We said we would be here at 3 o'clock. It's like 2:59. Jesse, how are you?
Doing great. Hey, we're early. That's good.
Well, you were right on time, and I just want to make sure we're on Facebook. So hold on a second. Make sure we're live on Facebook, um, where people can watch us, and we're also on Twitter. Oh, there we are. Yes, absolutely. And we're also live on Twitter. And I will put this up at dancerucci.com. And I will also I will later put this on LinkedIn so people can see it on LinkedIn. And I will promote it on other social media. So I'm very happy to be here with Jesse, who I've known for a while now. Um, and I've said Jesse is a rising star in South Jersey politics, and he brings with him uh, a boyish charm. But make no mistake about it, he ain't no little boy. He is the father of 8 children. We're going to talk a little bit about that, and a lifelong Atlantic City resident. And I think Jesse, your public persona can be a little deceiving because I think you're a pretty shrewd political operator, Jesse.
Oh man,
But
people could
people
take that the
people
wrong
go,
way. Jeez.
I'm telling you, and Atlantic City is a pretty hard scrabble town. And you grew up there, so tell us what it was like, because there people think of Atlantic City as a place you go to and you leave. It's a place you visit. It's not a place you come from. So tell us what it was like. It's almost like growing up in Las Vegas or something. Tell us what it was like growing up in Atlantic City.
Oh, it was very, very neat. And in in hindsight, I do realize more as time goes on how unique it was to grow up here and things that I would just kind of take for granted. For example, as a teenager, that whole notion that, hey, I'm bored, there's nothing to do. I'm sure you and a lot of the people watching this have heard that from teenagers before.
Yes.
Well, when we would feel like that in our neighborhood, we'd say, hey, let's go up to the boardwalk. And what were we going to do there? I don't know. Let's just go see what or who we find. And without fail, because of the millions of people that visit our town, every time we'd meet, just handfuls of people who were like very interesting personalities, people that would turn into lifelong friends. And it would all happen on the boardwalk. And so, like, the idea that some people have that, hey, I'm going to go to Atlantic City or another notable place at the shore in the summer and go and people watch. You've heard that, I'm
Right,
sure.
right. Yeah.
Um, we just did that, and we didn't just people watch. We were also the people actors as well, even as young people. And the types of attractions that we would have. There used to be a bowling alley at the Showboat Casino. That was one of
Right,
our places we would go
right.
to. So yeah, that was very neat. Like that whole idea that the world is a stage, as I've learned the expression over time. Like I lived that, and
Right.
it certainly was not an experience for an introvert. I can tell you that much. It was definitely extroverts wanted. So we had
Right.
a great time with that. And then even beyond that, with the upbringing that I had, my father, he was older. He was 60 actually when I was born, and I have two younger brothers. So he would tell us stories growing up. He was born in Atlantic City, raised here, and we would hear these like Depression era stories of the Atlantic City
Right.
pre-gaming. He would tell stories about the illegal card games that would take place in his house, and running the winnings to different people around town wrapped in a newspaper. You'd learn about these things of Atlantic City having the first postcard and the first boardwalk, the
Right.
first
Right.
instance of bra burning, the largest striped bass or bluefish that's ever been caught in the world. Like all these things that you'd have that were unique about Atlantic City. That I again in hindsight, I wouldn't trade it for anything. And despite being a young knucklehead, but by the grace of God, made it through, and now I'm raising my family here. I think it's experience second to none. The type of people that you meet from all over the world, all over the country, that find their way to Atlantic City, the attractions that you all have, and it's like a big city in a bite-sized portion.
Yes.
It's an amazing place to live.
It's a town of about 40,000, is it?
Even less than that. Last census put us closer to 36.
Yes, 36. And okay, so the town has 6 wards. The representation, it's a councilmatic form of government, mayor council form of government. Jesse is the elected councilman from the 6th ward. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And each of these wards has about 6,000 people. But Jesse, was Boardwalk Empire, did you watch Boardwalk Empire? Is it accurate?
There's a little bit that's accurate from it. And certainly, what's that old adage? Any publicity is good publicity. So I certainly like the attention on the town. I made it through the way. I only got part of the way through the 2nd season. I'm sad to say, so I do need to kind of catch up on that. But there was a lot of that era that was really unique. Just the whole idea that you had an entire city who basically opted out or nullified the prohibition and everything that came with that here in town is definitely a big part of our history. So the idea of Boardwalk Empire and having Nucky Johnson, we just celebrated his birthday a couple days ago. In the show, he's Nucky Thompson, but he's definitely one of those very colorful characters that I don't know that I'm encouraging any of my kids to be like him when he gets older. I don't know that it's that kind of role model, but it's that type of colorful history that is definitely part of the grand production that's been the history of Atlantic City. The different leaders that we've had over time, especially during that Boardwalk Empire era, were larger than life. Definitely larger than life.
Atlantic City, things have always been a little fast and loose in Atlantic City, haven't they?
Yes, indeed.
Like my hometown of Camden, which when I was growing up was a wide open town. I'm going to tell you, it was wide open. Like Camden, Atlantic City has had its share of corruption, and it's also had several mayors who have gone to jail. And it definitely has an underbelly, right?
Yeah, indeed. And there's also this idea that really Atlantic City was a place for everyone. And it was a huge attraction for the people that worked long hours in the factories, in the Philadelphia area, who were just looking for a little bit of relief, and they would take the train down here and be able to have a really great experience. And there was something for everybody, from different price points, different budgets. And then even when it goes to people's lifestyles, that there was always a home to people who were persecuted elsewhere. We've always had a long Jewish history here, other groups that were
Italian Americans as well, large Italian American community there and section.
Absolutely.
And all kinds of immigrant groups that came to Atlantic City because it was a very accessible and relatively inexpensive place to relax and enjoy yourself and take in the shore and the amenities that went with it.
100%. And then even when it came to people's lifestyle decisions, there's always been this element of Atlantic City where things that are considered vices elsewhere have always been available here. But then that would be, especially, and I think it was done so well in past times, that type of activity would be happening right next to people that were very faithful and religious and
Oh,
devout,
yes.
and people found a way to coexist in a way that,
They
when you
they
look at
do
back in history, it's almost that
yeah,
we went backwards from that.
they
I mean,
do
that's
coexist remarkably. I remember one time checking into an Atlantic City hotel with a friend. It was one of the casino hotels, and the woman at the desk said, "How are you?" I said, "Oh, we're fine. We're looking forward to it, trying to behave ourselves." And she said, "Honey, nobody comes to Atlantic City to behave themselves." But
geez.
at the same time, every year the bishop of Camden comes down to Atlantic City and he opens the sea. They call it the wedding of the sea, and he um, consummates the sea, blesses the sea to the Blessed Mother, and thousands of people come down. Devoted Catholics come down to witness this. I don't know whether it's the Feast of the Assumption or whatever, one of those
Yes.
feast days.
Yep.
Okay, the wedding of the sea. They have a huge mass, and then they go down the sea, and the bishop unlocks the sea, and then I believe they throw a wreath in the sea. So these do coexist, as you pointed out.
Yeah, one of the big honors I've had so far being on council is I got to stand in for our former mayor guardian one year, because the mayor normally goes out with the bishop to
Yes,
represent the conjoining of the religious and secular authorities,
right,
and goes and does the blessing for a town that relies so much on the ocean, just like the people from Venice, where
absolutely.
that tradition happened. But I got to stand in for the mayor and go out on the boat, and that was one of the big, neat, cool honors of being on council here in Atlantic City.
They go out in a rowboat, do they? Is it like a
Yeah, and,
rowboat?
and you hope that they give you the good lifeguards and not the weak lifeguards as you're going over the waves, and hope everything goes well.
I've often heard of that ceremony. I'm going to come down one year for it. So now, Jesse, so the sixth ward is sort of like on the edge of Atlantic City, and it's abutted by, let's see, Ventnor, Pleasantville, a bit of Egg Harbor. Is it like if you're coming down the White Horse Pike into Atlantic City, the sixth ward is sort of that area on your right. Do I have this right?
Yep, and you would have to drive a little bit from the White Horse Pike, but if you did the
Right.
Black Horse Pike coming in, you would just have to go one block over to your right, and that starts the sixth ward.
Oh, that's what I meant to say, the Black Horse Pike. Sometimes now, can you imagine me getting them confused after living here all these years? But it's actually the Black Horse Pike. If you're coming down the Black Horse Pike, then it's right there, the sixth ward, right on your right,
Yes, yeah,
pretty
and
much.
it has
You're coming into the sixth ward.
just about. The last
Yeah.
census actually moved our line, because every 10 years with the census, they redraw the lines, just like they do with congressional districts. Ward boundaries change. And so my line moved over a block. So you have to make one turn. And I actually lost the new Stockton University campus. It was in the sixth
Oh,
ward, and then the new line put it into the fifth ward. So
okay.
that's the lower Chelsea neighborhood. And so for
Yes,
people maybe
yes.
locally don't always understand the distinction with the neighborhoods. So people refer to like three different neighborhoods interchangeably as Chelsea. And so there's lower Chelsea, Chelsea Heights, and Chelsea proper. So when you're coming in Black Horse Pike, if you go right, which is towards Ventnor City, all
Right.
that area on the island is lower Chelsea. And
Uh,
all of that is in my ward, the sixth ward.
uh,
If you go to the left off of Black Horse Pike, that's Chelsea, just plain neighborhood. And that's actually where I grew up, in that neighborhood.
okay.
And then before you come over the bridge and see the monument there, that neighborhood is considered the Heights, or Chelsea Heights. And I have 75% of that is in the sixth ward.
Well, this is interesting. And the monument we're talking about, a lot of people call it the Wedding Cake Monument. It's
Yes,
actually a World War a war memorial, isn't it?
it is. And there's a twin memorial that is on the other side of the country, on the West Coast, where that kind of U.S. route that, thank goodness nobody has to take anymore to go across country. You take an interstate, but at the end of that in California, there's a just about an identical version of that in California.
Wow, I never knew that. Now, Jesse, how did you divide? How did you decide to get involved in politics? Because I mean, look at him, folks. He seems like such a nice, clean-cut young man, family guy. I don't know what, politics is a pretty messy business. I mean, Jesse, why the hell? How did you get involved in politics?
Well, I guess I'm giving a good fooling then, getting people to think I'm all right here. But the I guess the answer kind of comes around two different experiences. One was growing up. I was blessed to have a mother and a father at home, and we would eat together on a regular basis, and we would have great conversations. My mom was more on the conservative side. My father was more moderate, and they would just have great discussions about issues. And so I kind of grew up in that atmosphere where we would identify problems, national, state, local, and then we would come up with solutions. And I was encouraged to participate in that from a very, very young age. And so that, as well as my mom was very big into volunteering. So between our church, she would help out new mothers with getting acclimated to their child, and being able to like help them with nursing and things like that when they were born. And so she would do that, among a number of other things. And so it was real natural to like develop the solution at the table and then sign up to volunteer and get involved in something. And it could be something as simple as an issue in our apartment complex, or something in the neighborhood, or something to help the Humane Society, et cetera, et cetera. So that was the spirit of the Kurtz household growing up. And then
Your parents were community oriented.
100%. Yes, very, very much so. And that's, I'm very grateful to that, because it made it second nature. And it's something I try to, instill in our children, that, a part of your time has to be dedicated towards being in service of others. What you do with it has to be in line with, what your calling is and what you're acclimated towards. But so that spirit combined with, I was in the church choir when I was young, and this was probably like 9 years old, something along those lines. I was in the adult church choir, and one of the ladies in choir was a notable political operative in town. And she found out where I lived, in an apartment complex where there's a lot of votes there, but you can't get in and talk to the voters unless you have the key. And the same key opened all the front doors of Chelsea Village Apartments. So she asked my mom, "Hey, can I give Jesse $5 to stick flyers underneath the doors in the complex?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, Mom, I want to do it. I want to make some money." And so that was my first little job in politics. And I got bit with the bug. I was like, wow, this is great. Plus, they found out there was some young kid that actually would deliver flyers. And so I had a regular job in all the elections. And those were like two formative things that put it in my mind from a very young age that there are problems in town, and I'm going to do something to fix it. And that I decided, again, maybe even as a preteen, that I was going to run for office when I got old enough, and go and straighten out things on city
That's
government.
a wonderful story. And you see, folks, there's a lesson here that even a choir boy can get involved in the rough and tumble world of local politics, which many people feel that a local politics can be the most vicious political fights. I think it was Henry Kissinger. I might be paraphrasing him, who said that these kinds of fights were the most brutal because they involve the most inconsequential issues. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that's true, but now, Jesse, let's see. There are 6 members of council who represent wards in Cherry Hill. I'm thinking about Cherry Hill and Atlantic City. We also have mayor council in Cherry Hill, but we don't have wards. You have 6 council members who represent wards. You have 3 council members elected at large.
Yes.
And right now, you are the only Republican member of council in Atlantic City, which is a pretty solidly Democratic town, right?
Yes.
How did this come to be, Jesse, that you came to be the only Republican?
Um,
Well, I mean, but that's a pretty big hurdle to surmount.
yeah, I mean, I mean, it certainly wasn't because of my party affiliation. The ward I'm in has the kind of the lowest ratio between Democrats and Republicans, and it's last time I checked, it's 3-1 registered
Wow.
Democratic voter to a registered Republican. So,
Wow.
um, I lost a couple times before I was successful getting on, into elected office, and I think a couple things. One is that, I was pretty persistent in the sense of showing that, look, we're looking at the same problems, but I bring a different approach to solving those problems. And I think at some point, through persistence and working pretty hard and coming up with some bold ideas, ways of reworking things, people were willing to give me a chance. And after I won my first council election, I was able to win re-election, and so it was basically I got 62% of the vote the first time,
Wow.
and the second time that I was successful, I got 58%. And so I'm really thankful. I think the voters in my ward, they were willing to look into ideas and character and
Right.
record really, and vote on that as opposed to kind of writing me off as being affiliated with some other issue that has really nothing to do with Atlantic City, like what our foreign policy is or what's happening in the Supreme Court. They
Right.
were willing to look at how do I tackle issues like, I don't know, the proliferation of short-term rentals, flood mitigation ideas, the idea that people who come from other countries should be treated fairly, but with a government that is dispassionate and really blind when it comes to people's backgrounds and giving them a fair treatment. So
Right.
it's been kind of part of the experience.
So now you were elected twice, and I have to point out Jesse is launching his third bid for re-election. He's launching his campaign this coming week. Um, I'm going to be there for the kickoff. I'm looking forward to it, Jesse. It's very exciting. And you have all, I've seen on the council that you have been aligned with uh, often with three other members of council, three Democrats. So sometimes there's a sort of 5-4 split on the council. So you do reach across party lines. You take a very let's say civic minded sort of nonpartisan approach to the problems of Atlantic City, and you find allies when you can, no matter party.
100%. I've been able to form partnerships with people over the years, and been very appreciative for that, because I wasn't sure that was what was going to happen when I got on. I actually kind of imagined myself off in the corner, kind of yelling at everybody like, hey, let me in, pay attention to me, etc. And really from the beginning, I found that there's certainly differences amongst the people that are on council, but I've always tried to make it about like the issue at hand and build consensus towards a solution. And I've really carved out a niche, I think, for tackling kind of complex issues, and also at the same time taking things that maybe were kind of written off as well, that's not a big concern, and something, and really championing those smaller concerns. And then lastly, I've made it a point to I don't like when people are taken advantage of, and when I see people getting bounced around, which is unfortunately all too common an experience for the average citizen in dealing with big government bureaucracy. I really try to champion those folks, and whether it takes me one call a week, a month, or even longer, doesn't matter how big the issue is. I'm very persistent at championing an issue, a concern, a need, and I think I've carved out a niche for that on City Council.
So representing those who might have been forgotten, that's part of your values. You think it comes from your religious training background, your upbringing, all of the above, or what?
Definitely all of the above. I mean, I had humble upbringings. We didn't have much, but we had our family and those values. And sometimes it was things that happened to us, but it's also things that, like, just with friends, neighbors. The people, in my opinion, that often get overlooked are the people that are working too hard and too many hours to have the luxury of being engaged and being able to be a watchdog for our affairs. So we're kind of notorious for having multi-generational families that live and that work multiple jobs, different shifts. And so there's so much juggling of a schedule and responsibilities and family obligations and making ends meet that a lot of people in that situation don't have the chance to, like, follow through with somebody who is on the government side, who should be very responsive, incredible customer
Right.
service, because they oftentimes have a position or a job where they're making a lot more than the average salary or wages of the people that employ them as the regular citizen in this town. And too often that's not the case. And so
Yeah.
being blessed to be in a position to be a representative, sometimes I get frustrated, and it's the limitations of the mayor council form of government. I would love to have oversight, and in some of these cases where people aren't doing their job or are neglecting the citizen, I'd love to write up some of these people and do that. You can't do that as a council person. You're a
Mm.
representative. So I make it known. I make it known to the
Yeah.
people that are in city government, the leadership, and in our case with the state takeover, I even go to the state folks if there's issues that merit it. Just try to pursue every avenue possible to keep people from being bounced around, and just have their dignity respected and their quality of life enhanced.
So I just want to remind folks, that in Atlantic City, um, there are a lot of people that work in the service industry. Obviously, you can't go to Atlantic City; it's a hospitality mecca. So there's a lot of people that work in the service and hospitality industry. Thousands of them. They make Atlantic City possible. They make it possible for you to have a fun time there when you go to any of the major casino hotels, resorts there. And they often, work long hours. These places are basically practically 24-hour operations, 7 days a week. They work long hours, and they work very, very hard. And a lot of these people, of course, live in Atlantic City. So that's a big part of your constituency. And I would imagine, Jesse, that constituent services are a big part of your office.
100%. No, and it's something, I also work full time and have a family, but I've leveraged technology. I have constant reminders that are reminding me to follow up on things for different people. And I try to keep good records and follow through on different things that constituents are. But I'll give you an example. In the last 4 days, I've had two people from other wards reach
Mm-hmm.
out to me about issues really affecting them. Water outage in the one case, and I even help with those things. I mean, I don't have to be careful not to stretch it too thin, or else my own
Right.
constituents say, "Hey, where are you, Kurtz? Get back over here." But there's I found that as kind of a compliment that the two people that reached out to me on that one recognize that I do have a good reputation for doing what I can to help out my constituents.
Well, I know you're a very hands-on public servant because I've been to several of your social events that you've sponsored down there in your neighborhood, and the people come out for them, and they know you, they respect you, they rely on you, they speak highly of you, and I think it's a testament to the idea that it all goes back to the grassroots, and you have to be responsive to your constituents. They have to know you, they have to see you, they have to see you on the ground. This is the what we call retail politics, right?
Absolutely. No, and that's a big part of it too. It's politics is not like the show business, or hey, I'm going to be a power broker, which is what some people think of it. It's like, no, like, you gain whatever stature you have through being of service to people, whether it's representing their concerns, being accessible, or advancing, or I say and, not or, and advancing good policy in order to affect a better culture and climate and government that will, help them lead better lives, have the best opportunity they can to, be fulfilled and, live a great life wherever you are, especially in my case, Atlantic City.
Jesse, what is the biggest problem facing Atlantic City right now?
So in the immediate term, so like what's facing us today, it's really those things like the cost of living. I just keep watching things like the price of a carton of eggs inch up, and milk and all those staples. The ability to provide for a family where wages, there have been some increases, notably with some of the contracts that were settled for our hospitality workers. It's happening nationwide. The pace of the cost of things is moving faster than the cost, really that people getting increased. And I should digress very briefly. People are getting a little insight into the calm tranquility of the Kurtz family. I'm sure you can hear some of the kiddos fighting with each other in the backdrop. It's funny. It's like every time I try to take a call with a constituent, I'll wait for the moment. All right, it's quiet now. And then I call and Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so, and then they go, blah, 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 blah.
Well, we appreciate you. We really appreciate your taking time out of your busy weekend. I'm sure the weekends are one of the important times when you have to spend time with your family. And your kids range in age from what to what?
They go from 15 months to 14 years.
Oh, my goodness. And how many are still in diapers?
Oh, wow. I think we're just at one. Right now.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay. Well, that's progress.
Is.
Progress.
Yeah, we've developed some good systems in order to move through important things like potty training and sleep training and eating and et cetera. And that's it is bearing some fruit.
And the kids really, with that many kids, they have to help one another.
100%. Yeah, they do. And, we really noticed that as parents during COVID, when the uncertainty of how bad or what this virus thing was, coupled with the restrictions and the limitations to interact with other kids and other people, we really were thankful for having that kind of inner society that the kids had with one another. I observed how they still fight with each other plenty, and that's normal, right? That's a normal way of being a sibling. But it was really beautiful to see how when they got cut off from a lot of things, they had one another, and that was a very nice appreciation. But at the same token, it made me very sensitive to the idea that folks, whether they're older and by themselves or people who were in a different family situation, it was easy for them to become isolated because they didn't have that type of like interior society. So, I really went out of my way through constituent check-ins to make sure people were okay. I was volunteering, like bringing informally, I didn't make a big deal about it, but I would compile a list of people that could use food, and I would drop it off to them like once a week and check in with them. And in fact, I was so aggressive with checking in on constituents that I would have people that would look at me funny, say like, I appreciate you checking on me, but I don't want to get COVID from you. So I had to like adjust that. So I did more phone calls after that point and online interactions and text messaging. But no, I was very akin or just aware of that need to check up on folks. I think that's important.
Oh, I can't imagine. I can't imagine what it was like. I know, my kids are grown and going out of the house, and it was just my wife and I. And, we only live in 1,200 square feet, and you start stepping over one another after a while. It can get pretty hairy. So I can't even imagine with 8 children and I'm sure that you must do an incredible job of juggling your priorities and your time. And your wife is, I suppose, she's got to be supportive of this whole effort and your political efforts and so forth.
100%. She's the real brains behind our operation here. The reason that we haven't all collapsed under the weight of life over here. She's wonderful, and it's something where it's definitely it requires time, and I definitely take it seriously. But over time, we've gotten just really really good with scheduling, making time count. It's that old adage: you want something done, ask a busy person to do it. And I think as we were talking about a moment ago before I diverged, I apologize on that one, but I've realized over time, like so efficient with like, all right, I know this is my break time at work. All right, I can get this done. I can follow up with this person. I could do that. All right, I've got this little time frame. All right, Saturday afternoon, cool. I can talk to Dan Cerrucci. We could do that. We can make it happen. And it's really about like making the time count. And I think that's that's an important part, not only being elected representative, but just life in general. There's plenty of people have a ton of time that squander it, and I think it's important to make that time count. And I also think that politics, elected office, should not just be an exercise for people who are retired, wealthy, or otherwise, subsidized to the point where they don't have the pressures of, working a job, providing for a family. I think that has to be one of the perspectives in elected office if we expect policies and decisions to reflect the real needs of working families and of people that are in that process, that grind, that experience of like, really making it happen, which at the time it can seem just like, gosh, I'm running, I'm not making progress. But you look back on it, like I look back on my childhood and I'm like, man, we had it all. We didn't have much, but we had it all, because we were in that grind. And that has to be part of the perspective of government. And it's, be honest, it's just, you don't see that perspective that often. And I wish more people that were in that situation, would be part of the decision making.
You don't see it as much as you used to see it. And I think that is a reflection too of how expensive political campaigns have become. Okay, they've become very expensive, and public servants, unfortunately, today spend an enormous amount of their time raising money, even if they're at the local or regional level. They still spend, or they have to spend an enormous amount of time raising money so they can reach their constituents and continue to be reelected. And I'm sure you see that, and that is a definite problem. But
Absolutely.
Jesse, we appreciate your taking time today to be with us. It's been a fun chat. I've been wanting to do this for quite a while, and it's been you've got the beautiful look at the beautiful backdrop of Atlantic City there that Jesse has. And if you haven't been to Atlantic City lately, by all means go. Almost any time of the year, there are things to do. There are attractions, and of course, I got to tell you, folks, that the Jersey Shore Beach there in South Jersey is one of the most beautiful beaches you're going to find anywhere. I mean, what you see there in the backdrop of Jesse, that is exactly what you get. That is a beautiful, wide, fine, sandy beach with very, very nice surf, right?
Absolutely. No, and that's something that a lot of people who are engaged and will complain about things here, you'll find them at the beach, very, very frequently in the summertime and throughout the year. It's a real blessing to be here, to have the boardwalk to walk, run, ride a bicycle. My part of the island, that Lower Chelsea neighborhood, it's basically 4 blocks from bay to ocean. So, you're right there. We've got some like really neat things. A little plug. People should take a peek if they're looking to acquire their second house or maybe make the move down here. Prices are going up. And now's the time to get in. We've got you know, the beautiful beach that we're looking at here, and one of the projects was actually pretty successful on that. Going back 4 years ago, if we were talking about people said, "Ah, you're crazy, Kurtz." We managed to work collaboratively and get the money to get a whole new bulkhead on the bay side of the island where I am. So the sidewalk and everything was kind of caving into the water from neglect over the years. And now we've got, it's literally under construction right now. There's some problems that we're fine tuning. I'm having to point out that it's a little bit higher than they said it would. There's little nuances, et cetera, with the project. But it's yeah, it's a great time to come down here and take a look.
Wonderful. Well, we'll be there soon enough, and we urge everybody else to come down there. Jesse, thanks so much, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Awesome. Thanks a lot for the time, Dan. Have a great weekend.
You too. Bye.